Kia ora everybody, what's up? It is robett, and we're back to back, straight into the mix. We've gone telcos. Now we're moving into the banking. We have got the bro Karna Luke, GM at SME at BNZ for SMEs and Enterprise Partnerships. How are you, bro?
Good, good. How are you, Robett?
We're just talking about just a couple of things. The banking sector has been doing some hours, and with where you sit within the bank, it's clear that you've been smashing some overtime. Do they pay you by the hour for every hour after 20-hour days? How does it work?
I mean, I wish it doesn't quite work like that, my man. You certainly got to push the barrows in terms of the hours to get stuff done because your customers need it, right? So
Can
just
we
in
just
that
quickly
moment,
let's jump to the more pressing issues here, Kana?
yeah,
You've got a name badge on in your house.
yeah. Hey,
I
look,
bet you.
we
I
got
bet
to.
you're wearing boxes. You're wearing boxes.
It's you don't worry about what the duck feet are doing underneath the water. It's all about the pristine vision above it.
Jeez. Nah, like. I'm sure been talking to many important people that have been on the line, so you got to have some sort of level of decorum, I'm sure. But no, I appreciate your time,
Yeah.
bro. You've had flipping heaps on. It's been chaos. So for those who don't know, maybe give yourself a quick intro to the masses. I think we've got my mum is watching, and maybe Auntie Anne might be watching as well. So I think we're at two people. But yeah, mum wants to know who you are. But yeah, feel free to introduce yourself now.
Awesome. Kia ora whanau. Yeah, Karna Luke, General Manager at BNZ, and obviously was really focused in terms of the financial industry over the last few years. So, been working with BNZ for about the last 5 years, and we're covering a lot of ground at the moment in terms of what we're doing for both our consumer customers in the retail setting and also our SME customers who are a really important part of the economy. So that's me.
I've told a few people I've milked your soundbite from your thing so many times where you said that 97% of New Zealand businesses are small businesses with employees under 20. And that is a
Mm.
massive, massive number, right? So maybe talk about what do you think, like, this is, what has this meant for New Zealand as a whole? Like this pause, what has it actually meant?
Yeah, so good question, Robert. I think if you look at the economy as a whole, 97% of the economy is made up of SME enterprises. So, that's a big chunk of the economy. And what that equates to is about 499,000 companies or entities. Now, if you
Mm.
if you look at that, in that there is 363,000 of those entities are actually they have no employees, so they're effectively self-employed people or people with side hustles, people just jamming in the economy and making their way, or who don't want to be on PAYE. And then, so the rest of those are actually trading, functioning businesses, and they cover all walks of life in terms of every industry you can think of, whether it be tourism, hospitality, manufacturing, wholesale trade, retail trade, you name it, they cover it. And that's the backbone of what's happening around the country, where we've got lockdown at the moment. Lockdown, a
Mm.
lot of these businesses aren't trading. And so
Mm.
the government support package that's out there, plus banks are having to work really hard to make sure we can try and support people through this.
So I was going to ask that, right? So when Jacinda threw the hammer on, I think it was like Monday at 1:40, and they're like, "Cool, in 48 hours, we're going to do this, this, this." When did talking to the telcos was interesting because obviously, they're plugged into countries like Italy, and they've been able to see what's potentially coming down the pipeline and how they've sort of reacted to it. How how soon were banks thinking about what this might do to New Zealand and whether what potential plans would come into play? Because surely these, you're talking about billions and billions of dollars. Surely there's scenarios where like, hey, if this thing here, when did you guys start thinking about what may happen and what potentially you might have to do?
Well, look, for us, we actually do scenario testing and planning on a regular basis, and so we actually plan for things like this, and we test scenarios and what happens to the economy, what happens to overall liquidity, and we start stress testing, what we might need to do. And I think there's been a couple of things that have really helped us along the pathway. The first one is, our cousins across the ditch are experiencing force majeure event with the fires. That's really
Mm.
helped us think about other things that really impact the economy. And then for us, closer to home, we had a couple of events at the Christchurch Mosque. post the
Mm.
earthquakes. We've had the earthquakes, we've had the mosque, then we had the convention centre fire. What that did for us as a bank, it enabled us to enact our BCP planning, and then we
What
pretty
does
much
that mean?
switched
What's
straight away.
base?
Our business continuity planning,
I
where
got it.
you have
Sorry.
to change your base of operations and start from somewhere else. And so we were able to get up really quickly within a couple of days, and we had 3.5 4,000 people working from home in a couple of days. So that's a really good plug for our teams that are working back at the office to make sure we can work remotely from anywhere and everywhere. But look, what these events mean is that we're seeing more and more of these things come out impacting economies. I think it's different to like the GFC, primarily because the GFC was located in subprime mortgage, market debt, and you can use monetary policy and fiscal policy to change that, right?
Mm.
But here you're talking about every single economy around the globe being impacted in some way, shape, or form. So
Mm.
so for us, it was really prudent and important that we understood what we were facing, understood what the government was thinking about, and then acting, and we did that. So we worked really hard. We put our teams together, and we sat down and gave ourselves some goals of really being ready and able to serve our customers across the board. And I think, as of this morning, we've already over 10,500 businesses, and we've helped way more, individual
Mm.
customers on the consumer side. So, we're in good stead to support our customers through this.
Hmm. I wonder, like the unification of potential competitors has been quite remarkable and very Kiwi to watch, right? Like talking to Jason Paris, CEO of Vodafone, and
Mm.
Jolie from Spark, around how they're all on the same cause of like, what can we do together? How much collaboration and obviously comms have happened between all the different banks to what type of collective strategy has everyone been on the same page with for this?
Yeah, that's another good question. The economy is
Well,
really
thank you, Karna.
important.
It's the whiskey.
Yeah, there you go. The economy is really important, I think, to all the banks. And so, through the New Zealand Banking Association, that when this started to come out, they got together with all the banks really early, and the banks starting to share, what impact things were having, and in terms of working together around branch operation hours, how we're actually supporting our customers and what that looks like. And then, certainly the banks working together through the New Zealand Banking Association on task force with the government to help understand what the support packages might look like and how they might need to get those out, and what they will look like. So there's definitely that vehicle, which has been used really well, because you've got to talk to not just the government, you have to talk to like the Reserve Bank, you have to talk to Treasury, you have to talk to the government themselves, and then you have to go through the industry dynamics of what it means. And whilst we're in the same industry, we're all different. We all have different policies and procedures, etc. But the greater good of wanting to do the right thing by New Zealand, I think, has come to the fore certainly across the banking industry.
Hmm. When you how many staff does BNZ have? How big is it?
So it's about close to about 4,500 odd staff in BNZ.
Jeez. How many locations?
So we're located, well, it depends what you mean by location, but we're located right throughout the country. So we have essentially over 150 odd branch sites,
Branches.
and then we have
Yeah.
our 33 partner centres across the country as well.
So the percentage of it's a lot of people, right? And I'm just thinking about the headspace of how many how many of the 6,500 had not really tried or worked in a virtual environment before? How big of a jump was it for many? Was it quite, because that's quite a radical leap for obviously everyone, but what percentage is already kind of messing with the virtual worlds that you were sort of playing in? How tough of a jump was it to get all those stuff, I guess, thinking about this new world of what was happening in terms of commerce?
Well, look, I think certainly for us, we have a lot of flexible working arrangements anyway, with people
Mm.
working from home. We try and, move some work around for workflow, purposes and work management. And so, as I said, we've done it before, and tried some of our critical services, working from home and any type of business continuity planning event. And so for
Mm.
us, it wasn't a big thing. It was making sure we can mobilize the resiliency of our tech, making sure that people had access to the right componentry, and then just getting up and getting on with it. And look, I've been amazed, and certainly with our company, and and what BNZ's doing to support its people, and also what our people are doing to support their customers. Like people are getting on and getting stuff done. You talked about it before. What this has done is accelerated the move into digital and utilising the
Yeah.
tools that are available, which I think is great for New Zealand as a whole. Great for
Mm.
customers. It's great for New Zealand, and that's been one of our, as you know, our pet plays to really drive into the space, particularly with businesses and the information around API sharing and having a more dynamic look at businesses.
Yeah, I was going to actually get to that from the strategy side of things. So, when we're talking to Clive Omerod, CEO of Les Mills, they got 25,000 flipping gyms around the world, all sorts of crazy shit. And I was like, oh, so, how's this, potentially tweak the strategy to, reimagine or reset what's going on, blah, blah. And he was like, bro, it didn't change our strategy at all it did was made it, 3 years to 3 weeks or 3 days. It just changed the whole thing up. So you kind of wonder in certain situations, he's going to be, I guess, brave leadership with big goals and missions that they've been trying to do to shift an entire ecosystem of these cruise ships of big corporates or governments or councils or different sectors. So from a
Yeah.
banking perspective of where you think the future of, I guess, finance is going, for you, it sounds like it's pretty much the same thing. It's just amplified all these different, it's probably sped up, sorry, accelerated all these different
Yeah.
sort of ideas and thinking, right?
Well, I think it's done both. I think it's accelerated the ideas into that space and amplified it, because if you think about businesses that had to stop on day dot at lockdown, and they went home, and then if those businesses weren't digitally active, then all of their stuff, if they didn't pick it up from their workplace or their office, or their accountant didn't have it, they don't really have access to it.
Mm.
And that information is critical information in terms of running your business going forward. So it could mean the difference between survival or not. And most of the stuff these days for businesses is locked into SaaS-based solutions, cloud-based accounting, CRM, ERP systems, which you can get all that information on. You tag that together with your banking information, your transactional data, and your spend patterns and those sorts of things. Yeah, you can tell what's happened to your creditors and your debtors. You can tell who hasn't paid you. You can start to get a real dynamic daily feel for what's actually going on. And look, for us, we're there because we've got our platform there. And what's happened with that is a lot more people have come on board and saying, "Wow, this is great. Wish I'd done this sooner." So these sorts of events have actually triggered people to change their behaviours as well, which we think is a positive thing for New Zealand. We think moving forward,
Mm.
you get a lot more people connected digitally. Then they can understand what they can do with that. Then you can actually help them with their business, particularly trading through this period and trading out of this period.
Mm. You touched on a really interesting point about the whole data piece, because almost when you've got like forced visibility and then there's all these new tools which you never know, and you've almost found your way into this crazy new world of software and tech to see all this stuff which was never visible before. And I think you said something before, was it the wording that a dynamic daily feel, was that kind of the wording?
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah,
so accurate, because then all of a sudden you're almost thinking when they come out of it, they're thinking, oh shit, now I know how these things plug in, and an API this and a
yeah.
print out that and a so and so in a weird way it's almost forced the world of business to get clued up way more in terms of awareness and education about what was potentially happening in their business, because overnight they're having to stop, not a single dollar is potentially coming in, and they're going to look at every single dollar that's going out. So in a weird way, do you think this is kind of crash course educating so many people who potentially wouldn't have even thought about certain things in their business before? Is this like, obviously there's a lot of carnage, but net in a weird way it's probably going to educate the masses to a new world of what digital and data can actually do, right?
Look, that's 1,000% right. And we've
Mm.
got stories from 70 to 80-year-old customers coming in and learning how to use a smart ATM.
Yeah.
Likewise, we've got the same stories today. We had one where we had an 8-year-old customer, a lady, learning how to use a smartphone for the first time. And
It's
those are
dope.
the unique situations that we're actually helping our customers with. And then you've got the other end, people jumping on in terms of their businesses where revenue is potentially impacted by maybe say 40%, right? Where revenue lines are just dried up overnight, and they're trying to think, well, geez, I've got excess stock. What do I do with it? How do I find another market? Can I get trade credit? How to look after this stuff when I'm stuck on the non-essential service? And what I've seen, certainly in the last 2 weeks, is a proliferation of people getting into digital. And how are they doing it?
Yep.
E-commerce straight away. Like they're
Yep.
switching to e-commerce, which it's a Kiwi thing, right? To get in and use the tools and use their ingenuity and find another way around. And so I
Yeah.
think that that's really cool, and it just helps the acceleration of that journey in terms of what we're doing.
Yeah, I think, also touched on a point there, kind of around this idea where, everyone's getting forced into these strategic, potential, huge, monumental shifts to their businesses, but then simultaneously knowing that they're going to have hard conversations with people. And usually the
Mm.
person they're most scared to talk to is the bank,
Yep.
right? What advice would you give a small business in New Zealand that's tapped, stressed, stuffed, mentally overwhelmed, having to let people go, stressing about flipping absolutely everything? How would you? What advice would you give them for their headspace of how to strategically approach this next wave if they don't feel like they've got support?
Yeah. Look, people need to talk to their banks, and certainly for us, what's really critical is that people understand what their options are. And if you're going to go anywhere, certainly if you're going to talk to us and you're in business, we're going to have a hard conversation. We're going to talk to you about what the reality of your situation is. And if you do it early and you understand what is your market, you understand what is your strategy, do you have a viable business to trade through? Do you not? You understand what are the capabilities you need to support you through this time, particularly around, how do I change my fixed and variable cost base? And how do I reduce some of those costs? How do I talk to my suppliers and get extension of terms? How do I get trade credit? You need to actually understand all the mechanics that make your business work. And then obviously the biggest one for us as a banker, we want people to have good balance sheets. So I think making sure you've got some ability to use some discounting in terms of moving some of your stock and your inventory through. There are a couple of other measures that you could do to make sure that cash flow is still coming through. As I said, hopefully you've got some retained earnings. You've got something that you've put away for a rainy day because that rainy day is here. There's obviously the government support mechanisms around that for your employees, reducing the wages to 80%, getting a government subsidy. But then there's the real bank conversation around what is the bank really going to want to look at going forward for based on current situation. What does it mean to people to be lending to businesses through this period? And if you have your strategy,
Hmm.
you know what the capabilities are, and if you might need to add additional security, you might need to take what's called a general security agreement, and you might need to have put a personal guarantee on just to help get some funding to go through the next period. Those are the types of things that we will look at. Uh, there are other things that we've already done and we put in market. We put a product in market very quickly called QuickBiz that helps people get temporary range overdrafts very quickly. It's all digital. It's all online. We've moved to digital really, really fast, which is great. But those are the things that I think businesses are scared to
Hmm.
talk to their banks about. But my advice is to say, get all that stuff ready to have that conversation. And unfortunately, through this period, we're going to see some people who do really well. Like everything, there's some people, businesses that we're working with now that are actually growing through this because they've got, products or services that are really needed. We're going to see some people that need to write it out. And then we're going
Hmm.
to see some businesses that we're going to have to talk and have hard conversations with around, hey, how do you trade through this and maybe close out and potentially look at saving what you have of your asset base and then maybe
Hmm.
repackaging a little bit later down the track.
Yeah, I feel there's going to be a lot of like one page, lean canvas startup things done over this last little bit to try and reset what their business is doing, where it's going. You touched on a point there,
Yeah.
interesting kind of around government support came for the
Mm.
employees, and now they're making place to help the employers. How do you think the speed of how they've acted has gone? Could they have gone faster? Could they go harder, considering everything else they've kind of had to throw at it? Have they used the right mechanisms? Has it been effective, big enough? Is enough of a bazooka to get things sort of rubbing? And will there potentially be more in the tank for coming out of this thing? What's your sort of take on that?
So look, my take on it is right at the outset, we're facing something we've never faced before. So there's no precedent for what we're doing at the moment. And so, I think the government has acted, with best endeavours and to try and provide the right level of support to people, which I'm very supportive of in terms of that. And I think on the whole, the banks will be supportive of trying to maneuver to support people first and foremost because there's a lot of people that need help. Secondly, around when you're faced with an event that's never happened before, uh, how do you know what you need to do and what you don't? I think one
Hmm.
of the best things that's happening at the moment is that there's a genuine willingness to evolve the thinking and iterate
Yep.
it. And I know that certainly the government scheme for business that they're talking about, they've been heavily working together with the banking industry around the Bankers Association together with all the banks. And I think that's a really positive step, because you get uniformity with that. You get an understanding of what you can and can't do.
Yeah.
Now we're not at the final stages of that. We're at the front gates of that, and I think that'll continue to evolve as we go through as well. And
So how does you go sorry.
a lot depends on how long lockdown lasts and how well how well people have set their businesses up for some liquidity to actually manage their cash flow needs at this.
I was going to ask, so just practically, does what the government send out like a Google Hangouts for all the CEOs of the banks, and everyone just like jumps on, like, or is it still a conference and everyone pushes out? Like, I'm just trying to think of the dynamics. Say, like, how does it, like, just kind of cheeky question, what are they? What does the government send out to do meetings? Are they like on Microsoft Teams, or what do they do?
Yeah, you join in on Teams, and you can work through you can work through on Teams, so people can video in, and yeah,
That's so
they've
funny.
moved through through the dark ages, I think.
Yeah. So what does this look like coming out the back of this? How does the I don't think exactly to your point before, talking about the last GFC going from this subprime American housing market. This is different because every single thing at every single level has stopped every single where in the world, right? So getting the wheels back rolling again. What does
Yep.
this look like in practical terms? People start moving again. Certain countries come in and out of it. How does it go from zero back to try and regain momentum of what was there, lost all the bits? So like, how does the world restart financially after the shit show?
Yeah, look, that's going to be a great question in terms of strategy and how you actually start engaging. Because prior to this, the world was quite globalized, and lots of
Mm,
people were working, all over the show. I mean, look at yourself as an example.
mm,
So where we're going to be impacted is by the standards in terms of which the government then start opening up access back to New Zealand. So the first one you
mm,
could think about is, okay, how long are the borders going to be shut for? Because there are a lot of people in terms of tourism, in terms of those who rely on, sending goods in and out, inbound and outbound to other markets, and those uh, industries are not going to be the same. So there's going to be
mm,
some real differences in industries going forward, and I think you know, if you look at some of them that are impacted already, tourism's one, hotelity's one. Probably professional services in terms of where people are looking to get support from. You just got to look at your local eateries and your restaurants and your bars and those sorts of things. But I think the big thing for businesses and people right now is to plan for that strategy and to
mm,
start planning about what the new norm might look like, because it won't be the same as what it was before. And I mentioned it earlier, but
mm.
you've got a lot of people switching who have products and going onto e-commerce sites, right? And then you just got to look at the distribution of goods around New Zealand now. So everyone's got excess stock, and you've got all these websites coming up, and people are like, "Yep, I can." I didn't used to sell pies and spare ribs and alcohol, but now I can get you those to your door. So those
Yeah.
sorts of proliferations are going on as well. And I think every business now will be looking to have a lot more of a focus on digital, a lot more of a focus on data for prediction and analytics,
Mm.
some cognitive AI capability around, hey, how do I pick my next market? They'll look to use those a lot more, again, because I know we are. I know that's what we're doing, right? And we want to try and find and use the right data to get us the right markets as we progress forward as well. Yeah, that's how I think it's going to
Yeah.
kickstart.
One one of the things I was talking with Carmen yesterday from Velocity was around this idea, and she summed up perfectly. She said, like if globalized as we've been, as soon as it goes potentially national again, they're going to want to work with the rest of the world, but simultaneously put up potential a lot of virtual worlds to look after our own. And it's this
Mm,
weird, going to be this weird tension of like, yeah, we need to do business with the world, but we need to look out for each other. So do we bring manufacturing back? What goes, and it's going to be this weird dynamic of restarting all those global sort of trade relationships back again of like what do they want to be resilient. This resilience is going to national resilience is going to be like a hyper local type thing. That's going to be a funky one to balance. I got a question for you that's come through from Jessica Smith. She's a MBA, very smart human, but it looks of it, agribusiness 2020 at Harvard Business School. Well, okay then, Jessica. She says, how do we support rural and remote communities to participate in the digital economy? Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question, and something that we need to be cognizant of is making sure that our metropolitan areas have access to a lot of the digital fibre and those sorts of things. And I know you had Jason and the team from Spark Up as well, talking about what they're doing. So digital technologies already exist for some of those. If I think about the ecosystem for agri, farmers and those people in the agri sector. Agri tech is huge, but they're connected to other ecosystems. I think that's the first one. So if you have, there's a product out there called Figured, which is accounting software for farmers, quite a lot, and that can then plug into other ecosystems. So it's not just the fact of having the digital technology and using Wi-Fi. It's actually what ecosystems do you plug into to actually help what's happening, because you can plug into globally a lot of ecosystems which will give you the information you need, and then you can start procuring and sourcing and working through the digital componentry you need to actually make a difference, particularly for the agri sector. I think the agri sector is a really interesting one because they're getting hit twice, right? So currently we've got the drought focus in New Zealand, and so that hasn't been great. And now we've got COVID as well. So you've got people that can't, drive their stock to markets, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
So there's a double whammy there, and we've got to support this sector through as well, because it's still a strong contributor in terms of our national economy. And you know what? It's one of the ones that's going really well because globally people still need our supply, and I
Mm.
don't think it's going to change soon in that regard.
No, I totally agree. Lewis Laddie, founder of Glory League. What's up, Louis? He says many business loans have been given lately. What's the increased percentage versus business as usual for business loans from banks? How's that gone? Because I know there was a thing the government was saying they'll back up to, is it 80% of loans up to 500K or something? Did I say that right?
Yep. Yeah, so that's the government scheme that they're looking at the moment, and that's a really interesting one because everyone's sort of got an idea of what that actually looks like. I know for us, and I know all the banks have already kicked into gear and looking at temporary facilities and overdrafts and those sorts of things that were available to people and to businesses straight away. I know there's been some utilisation of that in terms of what we've seen. I would say, as a general comment, overall, we've been, pleasantly surprised by the strength of some of the businesses and their balance sheets, which I think is a good thing. People have, thought further ahead and started to look at that. Um, I think what will happen in the next little while, as we finalise that government scheme with all the banks and we work through, then we'll be able to see how we can actually support businesses. But I will say, it's not a free hit. It's not. You can't just rock up and say, "Hey, man, you give me my $500,000." It's there are
Vegas, baby.
lending. Yeah, yeah, there are lending standards and obligations that all the banks will be obligated to, and we're just working through that day by day with the government in terms of getting the right processes down, so that we can actually execute that to help and support businesses. And look, I think businesses will range from some might need 30,000, some might need 500,000. It just depends on the size and the industry, and it depends on what I said before around making sure you got your ducks in a row around. Do I have a good strategy? Have I really looked at my balance sheet? Have I asked all the questions I can around my business to say, okay, can I get some discounted payments from suppliers? Can I extend my payment terms? The tax obligations that have been changed out there at the moment are pretty good too. So you can look at some of the
What's
deferrals
changed?
and
Yeah.
those sorts of things. Yeah, and then you've got other support mechanisms that the banks have got around. There's the home loan repayment deferrals, or the interest only, or the change of repayments. And I think having a good conversation with bankers around that is really critical to understanding what's the right option for me. You don't just take the first one, go through the options, have that upfront conversation. And yet we do expect to lend the facilities as we've talked about and what the government has put out there. And I think they've put out around 6.25 billion across the bank and financial industry. And so I think everyone is on the line saying, yeah, we expect to lend that, and then we'll work with the government as we go forward.
Still, you need to be brave to have those conversations with the banks. I think this is definitely the key one. The bro Ruben Frizzell says, props to our commercial associate that we deal with, Daniel Toy, with how he helped us out. Good job. So you can try and
Awesome.
track down Daniel Toy out of the 6,500 and say that Ruben has not tagged him in properly into LinkedIn so he doesn't get the plugs to be able to see it, and you can track him down. You got Ruben, tag that shit, man. Sort it out. Secondly, Paul Richards. Hey guys, how do you see businesses that rely on both one-on-one in-person service and discretionary spend traveling post-lockdown? For example, gyms, personal trainers, hairdressers, etc. Oh, good question. One-to-one services is tricky because you can't, unless you're like me, you don't have an option for a haircut. You're kind of stuffed, right? What do you do? Yeah, what do you say there? That's a tricky one.
Yeah, look, one-to-one services, and there's a lot of them, and we talked about before. Right? There's these micro type business side hustles, or people who are self-employed who are actually, selling their services out and about. I think as you go through this, depending on how long lockdown goes for, the reboot of the general national economy is where it will start. And so
Mm,
those people on one-to-one services need to make sure they can weather themselves through that, so that when the national economy gets going again, that's where they will kick in. And so that's where the wage subsidies have been designed to help. That's where the home loan and personal loan deferral of repayments have been there to help. That's where like temporary overdrafts are there to help, and also in a certain extent the business support mechanisms that the government's putting out. They're all there to help, so that these essential one-on-one services that actually drive a part of the economy, because
yeah,
they might not be huge, but they drive a big part of the economy, because they spend,
yeah,
because they use that money, and they pay mortgages, and they pay rent, and
yeah,
they do all those sorts of things as well. So I think it's a really big part of the economy for us, and one that we definitely want to support. But again, when the national economy starts taking off, when lockdown comes off, that's when we'll see pockets of those communities being able to get back out, help their communities, do those haircuts, do those personal training sessions, and look, some of those, not haircuts, but personal trainers and those sorts of things, can a lot of them are switched to online, digital sessions as well.
yeah, yeah. Probably, yeah, probably two points on that, depending on what type of one-to-one is. There's an idea around potentially selling your headspace and your thinking around certain things if you can productize an educational component to certain industries where people might want. And then secondly, I'm imagining, I mean, if my barber said, hey, prepay up front for the next 5 sessions and only pay for two, I'd probably do it as
Mm.
well. So there might be some different ways. So if you either try and virtualize, create a digital product, or potentially pre-sell future stuff. I mean, David Downs did that with Cafe SOS. If you go to cafesos.com, I think he's turned over like
Mm.
350,000 in the last couple of days or something, supporting your local cafe. Not potentially not a dumb idea, just to try and keep cash flow rolling. Could be a thing as well. Um, how many people? I was going to ask. So how many people report to you under your whole world? A couple hundred? Is it? How big is it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've got, in terms of my functions, we've got all
Your
the
yeah.
growth sector guys. So we've got a working capital trade specialist and sort of specialized solutions team, and there's quite a few people in there. This is right across the country. We've got to work in a matrix model. So there's maybe 100 odd people in there. We're the sector heads across business and commercial. Again, matrixed into our distribution. So we work with them in a horizontal line, and there's a couple of hundred people in there, but they're run out of our managing partners and our senior partners in the network. And then we also have the SME hubs, and so certainly there is about 150 odd people in there. That includes our Agri Service Centre plus our hubs in Christchurch, Hamilton, and Auckland. And then there's a performance function that sits in there. So we've got our insights and performance team, and what else? And we've got our business activation, which is really driving what we talked about earlier around tools to market, around our navigation of digital, our My Business Live platform, our Community 101 set up in Christchurch, and then we've got a few new tools coming live to market as well. So they're really driving the innovation of digital adoption.
And is this all under
This is,
you?
yeah, yeah. This is all sort of, yeah. And then we've
Okay.
got, yeah.
What else? Yeah, keep going. What else you got?
No, well, the sector heads they right. So we've got the consumer, micro, small business sector head as well. But again, matrix obviously, networks run by the regional general manager, where the branches and they all sit. So yeah, we cut across the entire partnership banking, which is consumer, micro businesses, small business, and commercial. So that's what sort of sits in partnership banking, and
Yeah.
we work in that matrix way to support the other GMs that are running the other parts of the business.
So where I was trying to get to you after the Wikipedia of gnarly responsibilities, which are on your perfectly crisp shoulders, is how are you leading hundreds of people remotely from a room with a good internet connection?
Yep. So what we did in terms of our team, we for I report to Paul Carter, who's the chief customer officer for partnership banking. What we did straight away is, we set up as a team the certain aspects of control and who was going to control what part, and we set up a customer control center. And so all the stuff for customers works through my team, and we got a control center that connects every part of the organization, the enterprise, and everything that people want to touch that hit the front line or hit our bankers, that comes through the control center. And so we set up a daily call. We've got that daily call going really early, just to check in with people and just to
Mm.
say, right, here's what's coming down the pipe today. Here's some of the stuff that you're feeding back as a two-way perspective with our people, a chance for us to connect to them and a chance for them to say, shucks, I've got some problems. Where do I
Yeah.
go? I don't. This is new, and so we've set up in the control center a response delivery team, and the response delivery team has got everybody cross-functionally from across the bank who can be the right decision maker for that policy change or for this to happen, so that they're not actually going, here, there, and everywhere. Cross-functionally, we're all together as well.
So
So we have those
speed is
calls.
plugged in. Yeah.
Speed is plugged in, and we're working around the clock to make some pretty dynamic changes. And I've got to say, really, really, really proud of the team and the effort that they've driven for our customers.
Mm.
And we've had some really, really lovely customer feedback as well. We probably won't always get it right, but there'll be some customers that won't have great feedback too. But what we'll do is we'll listen to that, and we'll take that on board, and we'll look to change that. So that's how we've done it. We have a Teams call every day, just either with our branch network on one day and with our senior leaders on the other day. And we've just this week started to lengthen that out. And every second day, we're publishing our customer center updates in terms of what's really important. We've linked them all up to our knowledge-based systems and everything else, so that people can just go to one place, connect in. This is what I need to know. This is how I can help my customer. Bang. And then we've
Do
set
you
up an
wear that?
inbox.
Do you wear your suit jacket with your name badge on it for your morning calls?
No, I don't. I actually try and get a little bit
I
of
knew you
humor in
didn't.
there.
I don't know why you dress. I was like, you got your name badge on in your house, in your room. It's so
I
good.
want to. I want to feel a little bit like you're in the environment. But no, I don't.
Mate,
We
if
had
you should, I was gonna say you should be there with like one of those like Billy T singlets with the yellow thing on, and then just have your big. You've got like the fancy are those like printed out like fake Harvard docs on the wall that you're trying to flex on us with all
oh
your
yeah,
education shit.
like they're everywhere. I just put them up everywhere now. Just print them
It's
off every day. That's because that's all you can do.
this is mine. I have nothing. I have absolutely nothing. So I actually got two things. Kotoku Nui jumps in. Ngati Paro laugh if I ever heard one. Oh, thanks, bro. Appreciate it. Oh, Dan Walker, the bro Dan Te Whenua. Taranaki in the
Oh,
house. Mauri Ora Karna. Shot Dan. He's such a good bastard.
got it, Dan.
So we come out of this. It's a reset. I've been thinking about this idea of PCAC, pre-corona, after corona, mindset shift, reimagine, yada, 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 new world, new day for a new New Zealand. If you had to wipe the slate clean and you think about where New Zealand could be and what that looks like, if you sprinkle your little fancy, Karna dust over it, what does amazingness look like for a new New Zealand?
Big question.
That's what we're here to do, mate. This is the
Yeah,
hard chats.
that's right. Yeah. I get it. Look, a new New Zealand, certainly from my perspective, I think we've got to ask ourselves a simple question, and that the first simple question is, how do we not go back? How do we not go back to fall into where we were before? Because through this period, we've made so many changes as a country, as people, and well, technology, digital is just one, but actually how we learn and then how we share. And so I think we will start to see the new New Zealand start to come out of this. I think new business models will emerge out of it. Like any disruption to markets and economies, new business models come out of it. Go to the GFC. What came out of that? Well, huge proliferation in platform-based companies. So come into this, what's going to come out of this? And so that's where I'm thinking around the connectivity of data and information, and how you can accelerate, business both nationally and cross border, because you can achieve the connectivity and the relationship engagement, but do it this way. But you
Mm,
can also achieve the feel good, the sensory, the smell, the touch, the like, because when a product turns up, you get that feeling. So
mm,
I think we're going to get a lot of new business models out of this. I think we're going to see some industry consolidations, naturally, and stuff like this. You do. There's forever the opportunists that come out of this. Um, Ultimately, what I'd like to see is people plugged into the necessary information sets to actually help drive their business.
mm,
That's what I'd like to see, because I think if you can do that, you're going to be more informed, and you're going to be better prepared for the next time something like this happens. And not only that, you're going to have a better business.
mm,
So if you're into your, for us, our My Business Live platforms, and you got the right content connected to it, plus the right apps and the right ecosystems that you're participating in, the chances are something like this happens again, you may be impacted, but you'll survive and create something new out of it.
mm.
So that's what it looks like for me, Robert. I'm
Good.
really hoping that we've got some great new business models, and people really caring about, actually, I need to look at things a little bit differently.
Don't go back. I think that's the
Yeah,
key.
yeah.
But before
Don't
we
go
leave,
back.
Kodoku says, "Are you involved with the NILS program for struggling whānau during isolation phase? Good Shepherd Microfinance. What is NILS?
Yeah, so it's a non-interest bearing loan. So
Ah, do you
we've
do
got,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Hey.
We've got a cool program at our community finance run by a great lady called Frances Ronowitz, and she, yes, we've increased our support of the nil interest loans, for people struggling. So that came out today, and our community finance team with Good Shepherd are looking to get a lot more active in that space. So yes, we are, and yes, we
Cool.
are driving that as well. Yep. So that's
Um,
where we go to communities and support people who can't afford, the normal loan regime, but are good people and just need a hand, and so they don't get charged
that's
the interest
awesome.
on that loan. Yeah,
That's
we've been
awesome.
doing it for about 5, 6 years.
You should get louder about that. That's great. Um,
That's what this is for.
finally, before yeah, finally before we leave, we've got a massive favour all the way in from Talia. Wear your wig, Karna. So, what is this wig that we are talking about? How flexy is the wig?
uh, yeah. So, well, this is what I was talking about before.
Are you building
One of the
culture?
things.
Is this what's happening? You're building culture. What are you doing?
Yeah. Well, look, one of the things as we're connecting to our people is to working from home, and working remotely is, sometimes difficult for people. And you got to remember, you can't be in fight or flight mode all the time. And I think in crisis times, people can end up being in fight or flight mode. So there's high levels of cortisol, and people are always on the edge. And what I try and do, and tomorrow, Talia, I can tell you, I'll be doing something special tomorrow. I do a bit of something different each week, and just last week I got online on Friday, a funny Friday, and my kids dressed me up, and then we put some music on, and I dance and just show people
You still
a
got it.
little bit of
You
light.
still got the 1-2 step.
Yeah,
The old kind of shuffle. You want to hit him with a
I
what?
just I think it was just a one step, but I know one week I wore a wig, and tomorrow I've got something special planned. Well,
So I don't know if I should be like real stoked or disappointed. Stoked that you're doing that for the rest of your team, or when you come on with me, then you wear a suit jacket with your name badge on it, and you're wearing wigs and dress ups and dancing for everyone else. Wow, I'm in the wrong
well,
profession. Maybe I should go into
you,
banking.
yeah. This is how you need to see me, though. We're always catching up casually, so this is
Yeah.
my dress up for you.
Uh, okay, bro. Okay. Hey, before we go, Melanie Beatty, head of strategic partnerships from ASBC. Great interview. Thanks, Robett and Karna. Thanks, Mel. She rules.
Thanks, Mel. Much appreciated.
Sure. Hey, I know you're an extremely busy man. Your team, I've been vetted by about 25 of your different PR and HR crew. Just make sure I didn't say the word shit. I didn't talk about anything sketchy. And like I think we
Yeah,
both know I just can't be controlled. So either we roll like we roll, or it'll be fine. The intent's
yeah.
good.
We're all
Execution
good.
sometimes a little off. It's fine.
All good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, no, thank you
appreciate
for
you,
your time.
bro. It's been mean. I'm really good. Even just a bunch of stuff, and it is cool. I like just seeing the the co-opetition that exists when like Kiwidom's just rising on top above all the other bullshit. It's like, no, let's help
Yeah,
Kiwis. Let's do good stuff next. I think
yeah,
it's been cool to see that. If you look at other parts of the world, it's very me stuff everyone else, not we let's
yeah,
grow together. And it's become very clear there's like this, I'm calling it this kind of unity of purpose. I stole it off Rob Campbell around what this means for the nation of where it could go. Yes, there's medical stuff we want to get through, that financially there's a stuff but there's this huge community angle about each other, which I think is really important that we don't lose sight of either, which it feels like we haven't, which makes me feel
yeah.
very proud to be a Kiwi. It's cool.
Yeah, my last thought would be the way we get through this is to, people talk about banks and people talk about economies and stuff, but I think this is bigger than that. The way we get through this is we have to deal with the health first. So we have to deal with the health of the nation and the health of the world. And then when you can deal with those things, and when you get that, in a good space, then you can use monetary or fiscal policy to start the stimulus. But to do
Mm.
anything else other than that, we have to start there, and that's all of us. That's banks, that's companies, that's individuals. We've got to start there first. So we can't fix anything if we can't fix, the health of the nation first.
Man, I didn't know you're also a politician too, bro. Are you rolling into that space? Jeez,
No,
fucking old.
no, no.
Hey, appreciate your time, brother. Much love. Kind of, I know you're busy and tapped and been working 20-hour days for the last month. So on behalf of all of us, have a whiskey for me, eh?
Oh well, man. Thank you very much, and stay safe, everyone.
Uh,
Lovely to catch up.
Shot, brother. Talk to you soon.
Catch you, bro. Bye.
Later, bro. Chat. Boss dogger, Karna Luke, GM SMEs and Enterprise Partnerships at BNZ. Very cool. Smart. I'm ridiculously disappointed that he decided to turn up wearing, a suit jacket with his name badge on it, and he's dressing up with some flipping mullet head or some shit, doing dances for the rest of his bank team. Man, banking. Switch your style up. Thanks so much, everyone. Big another day. As I said, I apologize I didn't do more earlier today. I was actually had a 7-hour high-tech judging awards, which I've been doing non-stop all through the day. So I literally finished that. It's now 10:47 p.m. where I'm in San Fran, and then so we went straight back into it. But tomorrow we've got a bunch more crew that's going to be happening. We'll just check it out in the morning. Thanks so much to all the guests. I did a list of all the people that we've had on so far, all the homies that are in the network so far, and shit, it's been awesome. Just seeing the caliber of the level of conversations, the ideas, the thinking, just the intent, the empathy, the leading with love, the forward future thinking, cool shit with what New Zealand can be. And I think, Karna probably put it really right. Let's not, don't go back, Let's not go back. There's so many cool things which technology can enable, and clearly has been able to withstand the pressures of, billions of dollars and lots of people and millions of people. So it's been really cool as well. So stay safe, everybody. And until then, I'll see you guys soon. And if you have some spare time, please watch Tiger King. That shit is wild. Wild. See you soon. Deuces.